Did we promise something last episode? Did we promise to talk about something this time?
I don't really remember, but I also don't care. So,
fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. This is Big Boys, Big Ideas, episode 1. We decided on a name last time, so that's episode 0. We technically didn't have a name back then, so that's the pilot. And then this is episode 1. This is number 1, first one.
Thanks for the very, very good intro. All right. I'm Joseph, and this is your boy. This is when you say your name.
Philip. My name's Philip.
There we go.
That's my name.
Thank you.
That's what you can call me. Phil works too.
Yeah.
People usually call me Phil. I prefer Phil.
Yeah. We're doing a real fake sort of podcast host intro this time to be more like familiar, and like more just like normcore about it. So
I'm not trying to be like every other podcast host. I want to be.
Well, yeah, obviously.
I want to be like every high school kid and be unique.
That's really deep. Well, I'm gonna thank you for eating pistachios during this recording. So that's helpful.
Like I said, I keep it real. Okay.
You've eaten during every single time we've recorded anything.
I don't. I'm gonna keep that going. That's my thing. I'm gonna be the guy.
That's one of our traditions. Okay.
Hey, man.
All right. Don't apologize for it. No, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is episode 1, like we talked about before, which is awesome. We got a whole host of deep, juicy content to talk about today.
That's right.
Also, it's totally unplanned and free flowing, and so we're just not worrying about it.
We should also maybe mention like what we want this to be like about, like thematically speaking. Because
people just listen to stuff.
Because I think when you have a name like Big Boys, Big Ideas, obviously,
there's some connotations.
Because like for example, you might think big boys. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that they're like larger, or maybe physically? On the weight scale,
perhaps
like on the
emotionally
kind of larger end?
Uh-huh.
I like because certainly I'm not. And
no, you have negative weight,
right? And so I think that when you say the word big boys, what we mean is like intellectually big.
What? Okay, well, we didn't want to seem pretentious. That was the whole point, Philip. You remember very carefully.
Right.
So
Sorry.
No. The ideas are big. We are also big, but big in sort of a humble way. Big in sort of a like facetious, sort of like self-mocking. Kind of way.
Like we're big boys, like we're adults, like we're big boys.
Yeah,
we're
the
big
joke.
boys.
Exactly. Yeah. That is the joke. Yeah.
And then big ideas, because we
enjoy talking about large, complicated topics
big
sometimes.
Ideas. Yeah.
Perhaps this is a good time to get in sort of some basic introductions, which we purposely neglected last time, because that was a test for all you boys and girls out there.
Yeah.
Philip, do you just want to sort of start at why are you interested in big ideas?
So I'm interested in big ideas because maybe I should just reframe the question. But so like I don't know, ever since I was a kid, I kind of just really liked thinking about stuff, like just kind of sitting and like thinking. And that's not really I don't think that's something that people commonly enjoy doing. I'm not trying to like paint myself as a really unique individual, but I think that because I'm certainly not a snowflake. I'd say I'm more like a raindrop. I prefer the raindrop
equally, okay.
Because raindrops are much
equally
more
made of water.
Raindrops can like carry diseases, and they can carry like they're much more interesting.
So you're sort of broken and edgy is the cool part of you.
Yeah. I'm very edgy.
Okay.
When you think of edginess, you should think of me.
I see a sharp little blade.
Exactly.
Sitting next to me.
But I think that especially nowadays, it's not something that like with how I think accessible information and entertainment is to not just to kids but to adults too. Mm-hmm. Like sitting and thinking about things isn't really something that we do that often, and that's something I've liked to do since I was a kid. But also, I enjoyed reading a lot, and I enjoyed reading like sci-fi and stuff like that. And eventually, I like when I got into my kind of, I was gonna say older age, but I'm not like I'm not 60.
Middle age.
So
yeah.
When I got like past high school and stuff, I didn't really know what I was gonna do. I was really into reading and writing, and so I in college I decided to major in philosophy, mm-hmm. and that kind of became the thing that I fell in love with. And so I'm nowadays I'm nowadays here and there I'm a graduate student in philosophy. I shouldn't say here and
Glad you
there.
engaged your sarcastic voice. So
Yeah, I shouldn't say here and there. I'm a graduate student in philosophy. That's what I study. I'm working on getting my PhD.
Mm-hmm. But it may be helpful here to say that philosophy doesn't necessarily mean just pouring through dusty tomes. And sort of worshiping the old Greek pantheon of writers and smart people.
Yes,
even though we are in your apartment right now, and I am looking exactly at a whole host of dusty, large tomes at the moment. But besides that, philosophy, it may be helpful just to note that it is, like you said, reading and writing and thinking, and it's just about like critical thinking a lot. It's about developing good reasoning skills.
Absolutely,
so that's incredibly helpful in so many areas.
The critical thinking thing is that's what I would say when people ask me when people ask me what philosophy is, I give them the most common answer, which is the Greek translation, which translates to lover of wisdom or friend of wisdom.
Right.
Philo being one of the permutations of the Greek word for love.
Uh-huh.
They've got a lot of different versions of love.
Because as pretentious but big idea people, we have to start with etymology and the roots of words to explain anything about us.
Well,
right?
I know, sorry, but
because I do the same thing.
So I tell people that's what it means, and then I tell them, but it's changed a lot since the word was invented, and it means a lot of different things nowadays. I think, especially the way people commonly use the word, people might say something like, what's your philosophy on life? And that's, I think that's I don't like saying, there's some people I know that like saying that that's the wrong way to use the word. I don't think that's the wrong way to use the word. I think it's the colloquial way people use the word. I think that...
Good out.
I think that, and that's fine. Like for example, you wouldn't tell people that the way they use a word is wrong because it's in the because the dictionary says to use it a different way. Because the dictionary's job isn't to tell you how to use words. It's not normative. The dictionary's job is prescriptive. It's supposed to tell you how words are used.
Right, and
the different uses
that's a
of
helpful
words.
point, which I agree with. But in the history, there have been, because I listened to a podcast, thank you very much, about history of dictionaries before, and it was about the various philosophies, and here used in that personal philosophy, sort of guiding wisdom sort of way, behind the use and making of those dictionaries. And so many of them were normative, especially
absolutely.
Classic Oxford English sort of ones.
Yeah.
I don't know if it specifically was Oxford's, but many now, yes, they're in the business of recording the uses of language, and many leading, what do they call philologists, and philosophers of speech and everything are much more interested in recording the interesting uses of language.
Maybe what I should have said is my normative take on dictionaries is that they ought to be descriptive. Because
wait.
That's part of the reason why, for example, when you look up the word literally in the dictionary, there's two definitions. There's a definition that means literally as in actually happened, and then there's the definition that says figuratively, which you'd think that figuratively is the opposite of literally. But that's the way people use the word literally, is to mean figuratively.
Oxymorons sometimes.
And language in general is something that morphs and changes, and it's not something that ought to be thought of as this constant where certain words have to always mean certain things. And there's not. It's not like there's a council that's here's every day they're
some have
here's
tried.
They've tried and they're gonna fail because there's so many people that use this language.
Okay,
the English language.
We'll pause here for a second. It may be helpful here to explain to some of the less big boys and girls, some of the smaller boys, what the word normative means, just so we're not leaving anyone out of the conversation.
Right. Sorry. So
let's be sure to do that.
So the way you can normativity is usually contrasted with being when you say something is normative, you're saying it's an ought claim. So it's a claim about the way things should be. If you make a descriptive claim, you're making a claim about the way things are. So you can think of it as the distinction between is and the distinction between ought or should. When you say, the laptop is black, you're saying
you're making an attempt at
describing the way the world is. Yeah, and if you say I think the laptop should be black, but it's not, you're making you're describing something about the way you think the world ought to be.
Most people don't start that sentence with the words I think. Also, most people are just countries should have a right to enforce their borders. right? That's a normative statement. Whether you agree with it or not has nothing to do with it. But many people just say, like, no, it's a function of countries that they should have this right, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And that's I think a nice way to segue back into philosophy.
Nice.
But a lot of philosophy is normative. A lot of philosophy is, even if it tries not to be, a lot of philosophy is inherently about making claims and defending those claims. And it is kind of like part of our goal in philosophy is to be convincing, at least in some sense. Mm-hmm. We want people to read what we're writing, right? And part of being convincing is kind of convincing people of the way you think of things so that they think the same way. And maybe you don't always convince them 100%. The goal is, I think, to at least convince them like on like a minor level, get them to understand things, at least understand what the arguments what you're trying to argue to them. Critical thinking is is probably the big one. That's what I learned a lot of. That's what I spent a lot of my time doing in philosophy, is learning how to analyze what people are saying, learn how to look at arguments, not only like their logical structure, but look at kind of like the implicit things that people are trying to like allude to when they make certain arguments and when they take certain positions. And I think that like skill, because usually I end up having to defend to people why philosophy is still relevant and important today. I think it's extremely important today, if not just for the pragmatic reason that knowing how to know what other people are trying to get you to believe is extremely important in today's information environment. Like, there's so much competing information, and there's so much information that's trying to get you to believe things and get you to make decisions and act on things that they're telling you.
Yeah, there's a lot we could get into there.
Yeah. That you need to be, I think, equipped to not to have a certain position, but not equipped to analyze the world from this certain position, but to try as best as you can. I'm not sure if you can fully do this. I wouldn't agree with people who say you can, but that's another philosophical position. But try as best as you can to try to step away from the biases and positions that you have, that you take on the world. And it's okay to have those, and try to analyze the form and the structure and the kind of like the overall try to understand what these positions are actually getting at, and what the implicit conclusions are.
Now, Philly Phil, save some content for later episodes.
Yeah.
I agree, couldn't agree more. But we don't want to spoil everything in philosophy to all our dear boys out there.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. I get excited. It is. I mean, it is the thing that that is like the thing that I'm interested in. So
we got to make some room for goofs. Goofs and gaffs outside the big old stories.
Well, no, exactly. So. That's why I don't That's why I try not to take it too seriously, because otherwise I'm going to end up looking like I'm even some kind of academic or something.
Who wouldn't want to do that? Even though they're obviously serious subjects, but who else is going to be there to make fun of them? And that's what we're here for.
And I no way mean to imply that in order to do all of the things I mentioned that you have to be a philosopher in any formal sense. I think there's people who definitely do that and aren't philosophers. I would say they're doing philosophy.
Generally, I feel like even just the formal sense, even just the idea of there being a formal sense of philosophy, like a school of rigorous study that are these books,
exactly.
is sort of damaging to the study of life and reasoning that it should be.
Certainly, if someone asked me where should I go to do philosophy, I wouldn't tell them you should do academic philosophy, because academic philosophy is a much different thing than just doing philosophy. Because you can do philosophy on your own in your own home. I mean, you technically don't even need like a book or anything to do philosophy. You don't need to read anyone else's work. I think that's the best way to do philosophy.
Yeah.
But
I think sort of the whole point is that everyone's doing philosophy all the time. Everyone is constantly thinking, having their own sort of worldviews. And the question is to the degree that they are questioning their own statements and thoughts and opinions on the matter. And the encouraging of that questioning is what is sort of native to a healthy philosophical lifestyle. There's lots of ways one could go with that and off of that. but let's just say that it doesn't have to be formal, doesn't have to be academic, but you also don't want to be the hippie hanging out in a tree who just makes sort of statements to himself and thinks he's found the tree of wisdom.
No, I think that one of the most important parts of philosophy is engagement with other people, and I was about to say argumentation, and I decided not to say that because I just still said it, but the word argumentation and arguments in general kind of put people off because I think people are used to thinking of arguments as like painful and negative things, and I think that in philosophy what we would say is that the way common people think of arguments is, I hate saying common people, but the way people commonly think of arguments is the things they're thinking of are more like bickering and more like just kind of, I don't know, meaningless like spats. They're not really like when we think of argumentation, we mean like discussion and
the classic Socratic argumentation.
I hate saying the Ben Shapiro meme, but the discourse, right? Uh-huh. That's what a lot of these YouTube philosophers like saying is the discourse. It's a meme, but it is true. Like that's part of a big part of philosophy.
I don't think it's just discourse. YouTube philosophy. I think it's just people who have been out of grad school very recently and are all just about the discourse in this country is terrible. We need to do something to make it more healthy and viable.
Yeah, people seem to really care a lot about discourse. But what I mean when I say discourse isn't like the political whatever discourse in this country, which I don't think it's any worse than it particularly has been in previous generations. But what I mean when I say discourse is just like having discussions with people who may or may not agree with you, and trying to. It's a meeting of two minds that are trying to learn something about the world and learn something about what they believe about the world.
All right. And where in this utopian vision of yours, that if I'm understanding,
doesn't always
classic Socratic argumentation, right? That's all about, as opposed to how most people think of argumentation as trying to win and put the other person down.
Yeah,
right?
winning is the least of my concerns.
Nothing to do with proving yourself right, but it all has to do with technically finding out the truth.
Learning. Well, not even
by assuming positions and then countering and having the other person fight against them. You're both trying to argue to the truth.
Yeah, you might not get to the truth. I don't think you definitely won't get to it in one argument, but you might never get to it. But the goal is to learn something.
Yeah, the point is to try.
The goal is to at least learn something that wasn't true. At least learn something that wasn't the truth. Like maybe your own beliefs that you had. I mean, almost all of the Socratic dialogues are, I think actually all of the Socratic dialogues are Socrates talking to someone who thinks that they know something, and then he tells them why they were wrong. And then they are obviously pissed, but they learn at least. They're not happy about learning it, but they learn that something they thought that was true wasn't true. Or maybe not that they didn't replace that true belief with a new true one, but at least they learned that something was untenable about the position they had about a certain thing. Yeah.
And so I have a question. Was in your time in grad school so far, which has been about, 4 weeks? 3 weeks?
Something like that, yeah.
Have you had any good discussions like that with any of your peers? I know you've been going and getting drinks with them and having some talks and everything. How's that been? How's the discourse been there?
It's been great. It's been great. I think it's great. I mean, when I guess what I was trying to say is when you have discussions with people who aren't particularly philosophers. Generally, when you talk with if you're an academic philosopher and you're talking with other academic philophers, the discussion's usually going to be pretty.
It's very different.
Yeah, the discussion's going to be pretty it's probably be pretty boring, but it's going to be pretty because both people are already going into the situation knowing that they're not there to try to convince the other person of their position particularly, but they're there to
say smart stuff. And
usually I'm there to give some crazy radical argument and then hear what arguments people have back on it so that I can learn how to maybe better defend that position or learn something that's wrong with that position. Yeah. I mean, it's really just an exercise in just, I don't know, talking, learning how to converse, stuff like that.
Just as an aside though, is that the sheer amount of abstract techniques, tools and everything built up to help reason, the amount of abstract conceptual tools that are necessary to sort of scaffold up to the different ideas that formal philosophers talk about, that level between formal and informal and beginning and everything, there is such a degree of complexity and a large height, a depth of of just knowledge and of just equipment of those tools that is like sort of, helpful in one sense, incredibly helpful, but also incredibly difficult for people to communicate effectively due to the large amount of jargon.
No, absolutely, it's a gap. That's for sure.
But so how's that been with fellow students with you?
I mean, I think it's been fine because we're all clued into it, so it's not the gap. The gap's not really prevalent, but
I'm saying, has anyone stood on like a table and then started like, yelling about Wittgenstein to you or something?
No, that's never happened.
Okay.
I don't know many people who get that excited about Wittgenstein, but
and just like no one knows anyone's language. I promise you, everything's messed up.
Yeah, Wittgenstein's an interesting topic. That's its own episode.
Yeah, let's for the love of God, let's
not going to get into that. Yeah. Sorry, I guess I should say. Let me mention quickly that one of the other gaps is that when you do philosophy in undergraduate, you spend a lot of time studying older people and people who've already died and like the greatest hits, so to say.
Right.
You study all those books I have on my bookshelf. You study all of those, and then when you get into, when you get into the later years of your undergraduate, for me particularly, it might not be the same for everyone. And if you do a master's program or if you go straight to like any kind of grad school you do, you're going to be transitioning more to like contemporary work. You're going to be transitioning more to like stuff by people who are alive and stuff that if you wanted a copy, you could probably email this person and like get one for free. It's like, it's stuff that's just being made, which means that it's also, because of that, usually pretty technical and usually pretty like, these people, a lot of them often feel the need to like make their stuff sound very smart because they're trying to get published and they're trying to, you don't get published if you're writing something for the common audience. You get published when you're writing something, generally speaking, in philosophy journals. You might get published elsewhere for a common audience, but generally this stuff is like pretty esoteric and pretty, like, I don't know, how do I say it? Like, it's stuff that like only, I don't know, really like maybe 10 people are gonna know how to, like, it's stuff that if you wanted to have a discussion about, there's like specific names that of individuals in the entire world who are like gonna be able to, who are gonna be able to talk to you about this stuff. And that's to say that the field is extremely vast and extremely different, and there's people who study and dedicate their lives to one specific sliver of the field, and they might know nothing about some other one. But I don't know, I mean,
it's cool.
It is what it is. I mean, that's academia in general, I think, too. It's not unique to philosophy. That's something that exists in a lot of, like, just history departments have that too, and English departments have that too. So
there's a lot of stuff we can talk about with that. Like, are you familiar with C.P. Snow and his Two Cultures at all?
No.
He was a British essayist and several other things. He had a famous article about the two cultures in academia. One between humanists and scientists, basically.
Yeah.
So you'd have engineers and you'd have the English majors.
So
never the two shall meet. And so we had difficulty sort of having any good discourse in academia due to the sort of necessary gatekeeping done by people who were sort of enforcing these cultural and societal standards as opposed to actual, intellectual ones.
Which certainly isn't how it used to be.
Right. It was a new thing in the 20th century, I believe, was his point.
Yeah. But I mean, that's part of the way it is. I mean, there's something to be said about the difference, I think, in the empiricism of the hard like sciences and of the STEM stuff, and the more like abstract nature of like the humanities. But I still think they're both extremely important, and I still think they're both like I don't know why anyone would take the position that they're not both extremely important. That's my like, I don't know. That's my like. There you go. There's my philosophical thought for the day. All knowledge is valuable. I don't know. There you go. Yeah.
Oh my God, so democratic. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Come on. Gotta be more leaves than that, please. Yeah. Which, okay, we're gonna save a lot more for that.
Do you want to? I've talked too long. You should talk about.
Oh, did I not
transition to your interest and
why
you're into big ideas. That's how it started.
Was that the question? Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, as a wee little child, I was ordained by God.
Okay.
I didn't have an end to that sentence. I just sort of expected there to be a joke, but
okay.
No, there was my sort of introduction. So I, similarly like Philip, I graduated from my undergraduate recently, and I'm in the process of looking for other work. I, as a child, was interested in a great many things. My parents thought I would go to law school. Harvard was talked about quite a bit at our dinner table.
Okay.
They thought I would go into engineering. Fun fact, the job I most wanted when I was a child was a garbage man.
Oh, that's very proletariat of you.
Thank you, comrade. The reason was because the garbage man got to control that awesome robotic arm that picked up the garbage.
It is cool. It is a cool arm.
When I was 7, I'd come running downstairs at 6 a.m. or whatever to make sure I saw that in the morning. That was pretty good.
Yeah, it is cool.
So I'm sorry, Papa, I have disappointed you. I am not a garbage man, but. Besides that, there were, doctor, lawyer, blah, 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 all that stuff thrown around. Always thought, after high school and everything, I was very interested in sort of mathematics and reading. I read a lot as a kid. I had a very lonesome sort of childhood, but there was a lot that I was interested in. I just had a fondness for learning, and so that expressed itself in a lot of different ways. So when I came to college, I started in computer engineering and mathematics. Mm-hmm. But after a sort of crisis my freshman year, I sort of had to rethink what specific areas I wanted to invest in, because what you're going to study, right? There's all this pressure about what you're going to do with the rest of your life.
Yeah.
It's a great amount to sort of work with, and so I just went on a bend and looked through every single major and minor that I could find, and so I sort of crafted my own interdisciplinary major. I took a couple from my main major was science, technology, and society. And then I found another one that paired with it called Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences. And these were great because they had so much flexibility to add on the other minors and majors, which were all around the areas of philosophy, political science, religion and conflict, other great interdisciplinary ones around like globalization and futurism, a lot of wonderful abstract conceptual ones like philosophy of language, and a lot of perfectly tech policy oriented ones like national security. And history. History was especially my favorite. Anyway, that sort of area and resume I sort of crafted myself. And so now I haven't wanted to go to grad school immediately after school like Philip. I wanted to sort of get my boots on the ground and see what areas there were that I could get experience in immediately.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of my goal for this season of life. Get some experience doing other things. Right now, it might appear as if I might be doing some web development and some more technical. Those are my proletariat skills at the moment.
You're a podcaster now.
Yeah, and
which isn't unique these days. Everyone's got a podcast.
I expect to support my family from this podcast.
Oh,
so
yeah. I already am supporting my family from this podcast.
Right.
So.
I assume, perhaps 6 months in the future there should be a Patreon with our two darling faces on there. And so, dear listener, if you have not, donated, I assume, to this future hypothetical Patreon, you should immediately. Whether that's just throwing some, addresses into the void.
Yeah.
We need a crypto wallet that we can.
Also, Venmo me. And make sure you use my referral code to Lootbox VPN. And
also this podcast was sponsored by Lisa Casper of Space, and so if you use our coupon code
by Food Meal Prep VPN Company,
this is a coupon code?
They send the VPN straight to your door.
Yeah,
you cook it for breakfast. It's great, guys. You should really try it out.
His coupon code is bourgeoisie.
Their watches are awesome. They feel great.
Mm-hmm. My coupon code is pretentious. You have to spell it right, otherwise you don't get in.
Yeah.
So make sure to do that, and you get $3 off of like $500 watch, I think. So that's probably worth it.
Sounds worth it to
Lord
me.
knows I have 5 on my wrist right now. So gotta get that ice, baby. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. No,
take us back down. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Could you stop eating pistachios for
a
solid 30-second chunk?
I love
for
pistachios.
The love
I love pistachios so much. Let's talk about snacks.
No.
Let's talk about snacks.
Not snacks.
I think snacks are a very proletariat thing. I think snacks are a very human. They're a very human thing.
Oh, is eating food human? That's dramatic.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? I think that it's something that I don't know why I went to my serious voice there. Sorry. I think it's fun to talk about. It's like
your fun voice is scarier than your serious voice.
I don't know. I think we should talk about snacks. What kind of snacks do you like, Joe?
This was precipitated because I said that I was not a fan of pistachios necessarily. I haven't had too many, but they just never attracted me.
Let me give you my really quick sorry, just 20-second defense of why I like pistachios.
Okay.
Because they're like an active food. Okay, continue.
And as far as active foods go, first of all,
you have to crack them open each time.
No, I get what active meant. That was not 20 seconds, by the way, so you're terrible at sort of judging time. As active foods go, actually, my favorite snack is honestly probably sunflower seeds. I've had a lot of sunflower seeds recently. I don't know why. I just discovered about 6 months ago that I, as an adult, can just buy sunflower seeds whenever I want. And then I have forgotten that since I was probably about 12, and my dad used to have sunflower seeds.
Me too.
And so, nice. Okay, and so I've having a problem recently where I'm just scattered around my desk will just be discarded shells that I've missed putting into my trash can, and that the dog has gotten to my trash can and just taken shells out and just made a big old mess. And so I bought way too much previously, I think. So as far as snacks go, that's sort of the most dangerous as far as I've invested maybe a bit too much time into it.
See, yeah, I agree. Pistachios and sunflower seeds alike are something that because you have to break open each one,
right? Yeah,
it expands and exaggerates the amount of time that you need from food to mouth. You know
exactly.
And so it takes longer to eat a lot of them, and so you don't end up eating as many. I don't think. Yeah.
And we as humans, especially, are love doing work and getting the result of it. Right? It activates our little happy center, little rush in our brain so much more.
Sunflower seeds are even better because you just pop them in your mouth too. You don't even need to use your hands. But sunflower seeds are awesome. I love those. They're also a huge part of like Russian snacking culture.
Russian snacking culture.
Oh yeah.
Do the dolls feature in that? The Matryoshka dolls?
Oh yeah. Dude,
I was just curious because of culture.
Yeah. No, sorry, but like you'll see like those memes about gopniks and they're always spitting sunflower seeds. That's true, man. Sunflower seeds are huge in Russia. They love those things. Really? I love them too. They're great.
Did you say gopniks previously?
Yeah, you know what gopniks are?
I don't think so.
Oh, gopniks are like these like Russian I don't know. They're kind of like Russian like lowlifes or like kind of
like rural sort of
kind of. They're like the I don't know, what would you call like?
Are they urban?
They're not necessarily like criminals or like no. They're urban. They're everywhere. They're it's like this Eastern European thing. They wear like the image of the guy who wears the tracksuit.
Okay.
He's always squatting.
Slavic squat.
He's got his handle. He's got his handle of vodka.
Yes.
He's got his cigarette, but he's holding it like he's holding it with his he's got
his
like a
hand
hook.
Sort of broken. Yeah.
His wrist has like a hook grip, so he's holding it with the back of his fingers instead of the front.
Right.
And then he's got that hat. What's that hat called? But it's like that. It's like a baseball cap, except it's not like it doesn't have like the whole cap. It's like
a yarmulke.
No. It's like the thing that comes out like this. It's like the thing that like old it's like I don't know, like paper boys would always wear them or like news.
Oh, it's just a flat cap. Or
yeah,
whatever.
It's like one of those. Names. It's like one of those. But yeah, and he's just sitting there and he's always squatting and he's doing the full like leg squat where you're not on your heels. Your heels are down on the ground, and you're doing the full real squat.
So
that's a gopnik. And he's wearing an Adidas tracksuit.
Got you. No, of course. Yes. So this is sort of classist, racist thing you've come up with.
It's not racist because
except towards Eastern Europeans.
Right, but they're all white, so it's not it's not racist.
Whoa.
But I'm one of them.
As they come.
I'm one of them,
correct.
so it's fine. Yeah. I'm allowed to.
All right.
I have a gopnik card, but
yes, no, I'm very familiar with that sort of meme.
But no, that's like they love sunflower seeds. That's the thing. Yeah,
gotcha.
they all anytime you can know that a pack of gopniks has been somewhere because there's just shells everywhere. Yeah.
Well, I am probably 3/4 gopnik at the moment.
Well,
which is a little dangerous. I'm not wearing a tracksuit, thankfully, at the moment. Not even running shoes.
I love
that's what keeping me down.
Sunflower seeds are great.
I was curious though because that sort of brings to mind this sort of like country rural sort of stereotype that exists, I think, in every culture.
Yeah.
You know, what we would think of as like hillbillies, like very derogative, hillbilly elegy, white trash, you know, sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
The sort of like Bavaria in Germany, you know, is that country's Texas, is how I've been referred to before.
Okay.
I feel like every country has its sort of both urban and rural poor stereotypes. I've heard, anyway, I'm just fixating on this because urban and rural I've heard of much more faithful predictors of people's political and social affiliations and sort of lives rather than anything to do with necessarily income or anything else, really.
I can see that.
That's the really strongest divide in sort of in most societies.
Yeah. I'm glad we found out what we agreed that the objectively best snack is definitely sunflower seeds.
Okay, well, I didn't go into the rest of my snacks because I don't think I snack that much. Sunflower seeds at the moment is definitely peak. Okay. The only other thing I've ever had a sort of snack affair with is like Lay's potato chips, right? Ruffles, something like that. Like Ruffles dippable ones that are
the potato chip.
The classic, the king of the snack, the potato chip. Along with a French onion dip. I think the brand name is Dean's, something like it.
Right.
But that plus the Ruffle is something happened to me during a Super Bowl game some years ago.
Right.
And I had these things together for the first time, and something broke inside my tongue, like some sort of neural connection, sort of like screwed me over.
Yep, yes.
And so I've spent a lot of money doing that, just it being on my desk, watching something, and then having that.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think that the potato chip has like this like hegemony of just being like the king of the snack. Like
absolutely.
There's something about the potato chip, regardless of what brand it is, that like potato. The minute you put it in your mouth, and I think this is like maybe this is like an American thing, but I think this is also like people who have put potato chips all over the globe have experienced this. It's just like, yeah. This is like good. Like it's just a good snack.
It has a societal, psychological hold.
Yeah, I don't
like
know what it is.
Psyches.
It's got this hegemony of like power in the snacking world. Snacking is, I think, like a bit of like a cultural thing, and so in Russian, snacks are zakuski.
Oh, thank you.
Generally,
this was Philip's tiny little Russian hour.
We learned a word today. So those are
zakuski. Repeat it.
Zakuski means like snacks. Like generally, they're snacks that you'd have like with other people when you're drinking or something. But my favorite like snack to make. So there's I think there's two levels of snacks. There's the snacks that are just already made. Open the bag, start eating them. Right.
So
simple snacks.
Generally worse for
simple
you.
Snacks. Yes. Yeah. Then there's the snacks you have to make. So like cut a couple pieces of bread. Lay them out on a plate.
Right.
Put a nice quick little thing of butter on each of them. Just a small little slather of butter. Small slather makes it sound large, but it's a small little piece of butter on each of them.
Thank you for specifying.
And then some orange caviar on top of that.
Orange caviar.
Yes, or red caviar or whatever.
No, I don't know what those are. So
there's two types of caviar. There's red caviar and there's black caviar.
You just said orange.
Well, I say orange because it looks orange, so I call it orange caviar.
Gotcha.
That's what I've always called it since I was a kid. But red caviar is my favorite. Well, the reason I call it orange is because there's different colors of red caviar. Well, it's red because it's salmon roe, so it comes from salmon.
Okay.
Black caviar comes from sturgeon.
Okay. That makes sense. I've had salmon roe before.
Which is significantly more expensive. Yeah, you have for sure. Yeah, which is caviar.
Thank you for knowing.
So caviar is a touchy subject. Some people really don't like it. Most people here in America that I've talked to really, really don't like it. It's like disgusting to them because a lot of the people, it like seems to be emotionally painful for them. But a lot of people that I know don't like fishy stuff. If you don't like fishy stuff or you don't like seafood, definitely not going to like caviar because it's extremely salty and extremely fishy.
Right.
It's literally fish eggs.
It is the most fish eggs.
Like that's great. I think it's delicious.
So
I think it's great.
It's a featured Zarufskin?
Zakuski.
It's close.
Zakuska.
So it's snacks. So caviar.
So caviar and on buttered bread would be my favorite. That would be that would also be a version of butterbrot, which is a type of like miniature sandwich.
Wonderful. Well, as we're talking about sort of snack and snack culture, My parents also have an interesting sort of relationship that they passed down to me.
Okay.
For many, many dinners that we had as a family, whenever my mother didn't want to cook too much, but we had food like sort of prepared. I'm not sure if it's an Italian thing or Czech or Slovak. That's sort of what my background is.
Yeah.
It's just my mom would prepare hors d'oeuvres for people for our family. Are you familiar with that?
Hors d'oeuvres? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it would just be tons of salami cuts. It would be tons of prosciutto,
in English,
for example.
People usually say it, hors d'oeuvres.
I have another embarrassing story, but in a moment. I have so those sorts of cold cuts, right, meat and everything, plus great cheeses, and so but plus crackers, right? For some reason, those are really, really good, right? As far as snacks, I probably almost like that better than sunflower seeds. But the thing about those is that it's so close to a meal. Like for some reason, my parents sort of just made, well, if we up the quantity of it, like a whole bunch, like a dangerous amount of just cheese and meat and crackers, which is like
let me ask you, did you have a plate of like slices of cheese and then just slices of like salami or something?
Yes.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah.
Family always had that
big old plate, crackers,
plate.
and then
My mom would just take a stick of salami and just whole thing. It'd be gone.
Maybe this is just an American family thing and not ethnic at all.
No, that's like a Russian thing too.
Oh, really?
So I think that's definitely like I think that's well,
okay. Hors d'oeuvres is French though,
maybe,
right?
Yeah. I should say that's probably not singularly like a Eastern European or Slavic thing. It's probably among many cultures, but I vividly remember plate with like meats and cheeses.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In squares, yes.
Yeah. So much so that I made that recently for my fiance as like a dominant meal that we had, that with wine and everything. For some reason that is like it borders, between being a snack and a meal, depending on the quantity of it. I suppose you have. It's sort of this like occupies this sort of fourth meal Taco Bell sort of Devil's Triangle sort of area.
Agree.
Where it's this addition that goes with alcohol before you go to bed, that sort of thing, in the evening. So I definitely like that. That's one of the dominant things my parents passed down to me as far as food.
It's extremely easy to eat too.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Is we love just dippable, like addable, like it's basically just adults Lunchables, right? That is what that is. Is it Lunchables or Lunchables with kids hors d'oeuvres? I suppose
it's Lunchables with wine. That's like the best. Yeah.
Oh man, if they started marketing that, the amount of teachers and adults that would come home after a hard day.
Oh my god! If I could just have those prepackaged, like that plate with the stuff prepackaged, just put it down, rip the cover off, and just pour myself in one of those comically large wine glasses, and just eat the entire
Good
plate.
Effect. Yeah,
in the entire plate, and just pass out. That's like the English teacher who comes home and has been teaching for like 3 years now, and he's just really, really wondering where he went wrong in life. That he's teaching third grade English, and he just really hates it.
Well, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least he's got those hors d'oeuvres to come home to,
Now you did say hors d'oeuvres, right? You really pronounced that H.
That's the way people. That's the way I hear people say it here.
I don't want to disappoint you, dear listener. So the embarrassing story I had, was that for a long time, thinking of words is difficult for me sometimes. I can think of the spelling and can't think of the pronunciation, or vice versa. Or I know the concept, right, but the word takes a while to come to my head. And so for that, because it's a weird French word, right, I saw it written down a lot more than I had seen my parents say it, just from reading. And so it took a while where I thought it was funny when my mom would tell me like the actual pronunciation was way different than what it was spelled like. Yeah. Because it looks like hors d'oeuvres, if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
And if you remember. And so I used to pronounce it, ironically, as hors d'oeuvres.
Oh my god.
Which is not great on a couple levels, mainly because of, the first word sounding like a rather impolite word. And then the problem with that thought is how I thought it was funny saying it to my mom and just whatever when we were having hors d'oeuvres for the night. But that because then that pronunciation became dominant in my head, so that I could, for a couple times, like recently, I could not think of the proper pronunciation for hors d'oeuvres. And so I would say, oh, you know what I'm talking about, like the word hors d'oeuvres, and the person would look at me as if I just ate their family member, and it would not be a good sort of situation there to navigate diplomatically.
They're like, what?
Yeah.
What did he
And so
say?
the worst part is that recently on a meeting a couple months ago, there was a phone call I had where in this job, in this position, I was helping do some food planning. I was helping help catering and order some event management stuff.
Right.
And one of the options for the food, right, was hors d'oeuvres. And that I could not for the life of me on the phone with my boss recall the pronunciation of it. And so when I said hors d'oeuvres, quite naturally, I tried to say it as fast and quickly as I could, sort of get it over with, so that she wouldn't think I was a crazy person. And I might have gotten away with it. I'm not sure. But the point is, ever since then, I've been sort of scarred by that word, and it's sort of left an indelible impression on me that I'm not trying to get away from. You know.
Yeah, it's a tough word. I've never had that problem because I always just say it right. But yeah,
look,
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I feel
good for you, bud.
Hold on. Let me remember which one it is. I empathize. No, I sympathize. Right. Which one?
Do you mix those up?
Man, which one is the one where it's like? So one of them is I understand, but I've never gone through it myself, and then one of them is I understand and I have gone through it myself.
I think technically the definition for them, neither of them require you having to gone through it, actually. I think sympathize just means like, oh, I'm feeling for you. It means you really haven't gone through it, like you're not actually feeling what they're feeling. Empathize means you're trying to feel how they feel, like to actually understand, like on a first person account, like what they're going through. Sympathize means, oh, here are my sympathies, meaning in the colloquial term, I acknowledge and I feel for you, but I don't really feel for you. Empathize is the extra sort of emotional, spiritual effort to get to their position.
I sympathize then.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. No, I get what you.
I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah. Okay. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that happens to me. I'll forget I just generally forget like words. Like I forget like. I'm like, oh man, I know like a perfect word. I know that I know a perfect word to say right now, but I can't remember the word. Mm-hmm. That's what I hate, is that my brain can remember that the word it doesn't know right now is the right word to use. Like it knows that it's the perfect word, but it doesn't know what the word is. And I'm like, just, come on.
Like, that sort of data failure is unacceptable in a stick of RAM, let alone my brain. Yeah. I mean...
like it knows what I think about the word, but it doesn't know how does that work?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's an article. I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of reader mail, from that.
Oh, I can't wait.
I can't wait. But I feel like I've looked that up before and found out the actual answer. Anyway, whatever. Neuroscience, psychology, uninteresting. That's right. Just sort of the whole.
That's just boring, dude.
Even though we were deeply interested in the question, not 3 seconds ago, which is fine.
Of course.
Yeah. All right, so I have another topic. We're just blazing through them, which is awesome.
Yes.
I found a wonderful article about from Fast Company. And they have their title of this article is 36 interview questions that are actually fun to answer. Which is adorable. I don't remember how I found this artitle or in what capacity.
Somehow I already feel like they're not going to be fun to answer.
Right, and so after looking at the first two. Of these 36, I found out that we should go through these and absolutely just answer them as, earnestly and just get to know each other. Get to know each other, dear listener, as much as possible.
Okay.
And so let's just jump up on this pony, all right? The very first question on this, the very first one is, are you more of a hunter or a gatherer?
Oh.
So I don't know where this marks as sort of like
what does that even mean? What does that even mean? Like... how am I supposed to interpret that?
So on this episode of r/ like cringy business advice, this is the first question, which I can only imagine is directed by some desperate sales exec towards like this sort of, like really commission based sort of position. What? Any reaction? Are you a hunter or a gatherer? I need to know.
I mean, when someone asks me, I'm just gonna pretend like I was in an actual job interview.
Right.
Someone
Thank
asked
you.
me that.
You need to be.
I'm just gonna say right away, hunter, because I don't care. Like I don't even care how they interpret it. I'm not even gonna try with that one. I'm just gonna say something right away.
I love
because there, I just want them to know that I'm decisive and I'm ready to make a decision about the question. But I don't even know what the question means. I have no idea what they're asking me. I'm just ready to give an answer.
People love reckless confidence.
Well, no, it's not going to look reckless to them because they're going to ask me, hunter. Like, oh, really? Yeah, hunter. Yeah. I'm like, yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm a hunter. Yeah, I get what I want, and I will get what I want for this company. I will kill for this company.
I will get what you need, and what I want is what you want for this company. Me myself, I'm more of a gatherer.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that says a lot about me personally.
Well, it says virtually nothing to me, but that's okay.
I enjoy berries. I enjoy pulling from different areas and not stabbing things. I don't know. That question is a wonderful beast. Let's move on to number 2.
Let me just say one thing.
Yeah,
the real answer to that question, if someone asks you, are you a hunter or a gatherer, is no. Because no one is a fucking hunter or a gatherer these days.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going out and hunting or gathering to survive. Like, except actual people who live in primitive societies where, like, in hunter-gatherer societies that still exist today. If you live in a place where you can listen to a podcast, you're not a hunter or a gatherer, right? Like, I mean, you might be like a, I don't know, recreational hunter or a recreational gatherer, but that's not your profession.
Recreational gatherer.
That's
like
not your
gardener.
That's not your profession. You can't be a hunter or a gatherer. So the answer to that question is just no. I'm neither. There's no.
The situation of just some like 40-year-old, middle management guy like interviewing at a Target for some young kid for the position of associate at the store. Just, are you a hunter or gatherer?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just full of that sort of BS ethos that like pervades.
How does this have to do with my work at Walmart? How is this going to help me?
It's too deep. It's too much stuff to get into.
Sorry, go to the next one.
All right, so you're a new addition to the crayon box. What color would you be and why?
Mac and cheese. Absolutely mac and cheese. Is
that a real name of the color?
That is a real name of the color.
My goodness.
It's like a light orange, and it's to this day. Ever since I figured that out, that was a color in like second grade, that has been my favorite. I hate that color now. I think it looks disgusting, but I just love the name. That some kid because the way they name the crayon colors is they have kids name them, and I love that some kid looked at that color and he didn't think like the name. He didn't think of a flower. He thought of what every kid should think of, which is mac and cheese, man.
Yeah, not even macaroni, but
hell
mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. Like, some M&C, dude. That's
that good stuff. Okay.
That's a power move right there. That kid made a power move.
All right, so if you're imagining this actual fun interview question in whatever hypothetical universe that this actually exists, can you imagine someone answering the color, like, what color would you be? Like, I'm like a mauve, I'm like a gray, I'm like a decent sort of gray-brown, which would probably be a realistic answer, but it's like, you got like 3 answers, right? There's like a red, there's a blue, and like a green, right? You got, there's just variations on that, I'm more purpley red, I'm a more delicate light yellowy green, because I'm like about renewing energy or something. I'm red because I'm about getting stuff done and about aggression. I'm blue because I'm about like, peaceful reflection and like hunting and gathering or something, And so just I
don't like how these colors have like these symbolic meanings. Like they're just wavelengths of light. They don't have any if you're going to answer the crayon question, crayons have such cool, interesting names. You got to at least make up an interesting name. You can't just say blue. Like if you just say blue, I'm going to be like,
I'm cerulean.
Well, I prefer to have interesting employees, so we'll call you back. We'll call you back.
We'll call you. Just do you know what this is, right? This is the interview question equivalent of a BuzzFeed quiz.
I mean, if you're like an employer and you're asking any prospective employee these questions, you're like the worst person ever, because these questions not only just throw you off of trying to get a job, but they actively make me like angry when I hear them. Like I'm like, what? Like, why would you ever even ask me that? Sorry, go to the next one.
It's just these like there are hiring managers, trying to make the interview process less painful and fun and everything. These questions are not the way to do that. And admitted, I have not read all of them, but it's been a pretty promising start so far. We'll at least do a couple more. That's it. Okay. Number 3 is we finish the interview and you step outside the office and find a lottery ticket that ends up winning $10 million. What would you do? The amount of just logical steps here.
Wait, so what? The question the question is what would you do? And the question is too broad. What would I do with the ticket? Are you saying should I go back? Like, would I go back in the room and tell you I found one? Would I bring it to the lost and found? Would I go and redeem it? If you're asking me if I would go and redeem it, you're asking me how would I do so? Because I would most likely get a lawyer and do so through a lawyer and do so through an advocate instead of doing so myself, so that I don't get any media coverage. Also, I would take the lump sum instead of taking the annual annulments, because those the annual installments. because the lump sum is preferable.
There's so many levels of failure in this question.
And then also, what they're actually asking me is, would you just quit your job? And the answer to that question, you already know the answer. The answer that everyone's going to give you is no, but the actual answer is yes.
Probably yes. I didn't even make it to the what would you do part yet, because before that, they just say, you step outside the office and find a lottery ticket that ends up winning. Not even you go out and purchase one. Right? There's so many levels here. First is just to ask a question about gambling, right? On spending money to making money, and just to have the wealth, and like there's a good part about it, which is like stewardship, right? What are you going to steward with your resources and the money you have, etc. Especially if something nice falls into your lap, sure. Mm-hmm. But this is just you immediately find a $10. Like, do you run back to me, Casey, your hiring manager, and like clue me in on the good news? Did you find it dropped outside the office on the carpeting and just assume it was yours?
Well, the thing is, they said it ends up winning 10 million. So that means you had to that means you would have
kept it, waited, and gone and looked.
So they're already assuming I'm keeping it. They're already assuming I'm keeping it.
One rude.
Which if I found a lottery ticket and I didn't know how much money it was worth, which I wouldn't, because it's just a set of numbers, I would take it to a lost and found and be like, Absolutely. This is somebody's and it's not mine. Or I would ask people around me, like, did anyone lose a lottery ticket? Like, I'm not going to, I don't really care, because any lottery ticket I find, I pretty much know that it's just a worthless piece of paper. The chances of that being the $10 million ticket, no thanks. I'm like, first off, bird in the hand, okay? I've already got this job interview that I've secured, so that I care more about that than this dumb ticket. Mm-hmm. But they're just assuming I'm like, oh yes, this is going to be the $10 million. I come home, I look at the numbers, I'm like, yes, 10 million, baby, yes. They're like, what would you do? I am not even, if they call me back about that job interview, I am not even picking up the phone because I am a 10 millionaire now. I don't care.
I'm not even checking to see if it's worth 10 million. I find a lottery ticket on the ground, I'm flipping the bird immediately to everyone in my vicinity. I don't even know if it's worth anything at this point. I'm just done.
I'm tripling down.
If there's a 0.001% chance that I'm able to make rent next month, I am flipping out of this joint with everything I got. That is what. Yep. That is your answer to that interview question.
All right. That's great. That's great.
There are a ton of these. I think we're gonna save them. I think we might make this a little bit of a feature.
It's gonna be a reading series. It's gonna be a reading series. Yes, absolutely.
Since we're nearing the time, I think we should wrap up a little bit with a good ending question.
Okay.
I know we didn't get into any international politics or anything this sort of round. But believe me, the amount of things we could talk about are gearing up and making headway in a Sisyphean manner every moment. My question for us to end, I sort of assume, is we're thinking of different section names, different sort of categories, and I'm gonna title this one possibly, book corner. Very original, I know.
Okay.
There's a lot of things we call it the bibliophile's nest. The bibliophage's worst nightmare. Anyway, there's a lot of pretentious stuff we can name it. I'm just curious, what was the last thing you read? There was like a meaty, like an actual book, and then what was interesting about it, why you're reading it, those sort of things, just to keep you, dear listener, interested in what we're talking about, thinking about, what's on our minds. What's the last thing you read?
Oh man, wait. Oh, I forgot the name of the author. I was gonna say, I went to a discount bookstore. Oh my God, what is his name? Wait, hold on.
The man who...
Oh, no, I remember. Okay, so, sorry, I messed up his name with the name of that book that I have there. But, I'll say two things. One, one of the books I'm reading right now is called To Save Everything, Click Here by Evgeny Morozov. It's about technological solutionism and like how we often think that technology is the solution to all our problems, and how oftentimes that kind of thinking can lead us to avoid certain problematic consequences of like social issues that can permeate through technology, and in fact sometimes even get exacerbated by what we think is going to be.
With that.
And so that's a really cool book. It's by Evgeny Morozov, but a book I read over the summer that I got from a discount bookstore was We by Yevgeny Zimatin.
Yes, I'm familiar with that book. I've heard it before.
But so
early dystopia.
It's early dystopia, early sci-fi. In Russian, it would be Мы by Yevgeny Zimatin. But it's a great book. It's a great work of sci-fi. It's written in like these journal entries. Let me say it this way: if you liked in high school, if you were forced to sit through Anthem by Ayn Rand,
right.
Like I was, and you hated every second of it, like I did, and you were like, I really wish this kind of premise was written by an actually good writer. You should read We, because I think that a lot of the, at least thematic ideas in there are like exactly the same. Or I mean, the philosophical idea is certainly different, very different.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Is the panopticon, is that featured in We? I remember something about architecture of the individual prisoners or whatever being around. No spoilers or anything, but I remember the central premise is it's sort of...
Yes, it's similar, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's partly about the kind of like de-individuation that authoritarianism, like that effect that totalitarianism has on people.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously it's a dystopia, so it's like about like an extremely much different,
futuristic, totalitarian
further progressed
situation.
society that has like way more like different technologies and a way different society than us. But that's a really good book. If you like sci-fi, I would highly recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The what I just finished reading is the most recent. I'm reading quite many things at the same time, but science fiction wise, the last thing I actually did just read is the third in a series that started with Old Man's War by John Scalzi, or Scalzi. It's a wonderful piece of science fiction. It starts with military science fiction. He follows right in the tradition of Robert Heinlein, a little bit of Asimov. I'm reading the third in the series. It's called The Last Colony. Much lighter on the military, but this one is much more about colonialism. It has a lot of good and bad sort of things as far as its critiques of past actual colonialism and the sort of neo-colonial futuristic human empire that is all about conquering different planets from extremely combative and aggressive alien species. Anyway, it's also about this in this specific situation. Many people starting a colony have to live without technology of this future 22nd century kind or thereabouts. And so they have to revert back to mid 20th century or mid 19th century.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and because they can't use any wireless devices basically. So they're thankfully there's a religious sect with them called the Mennonites, who focus on just simple living and just not using any technology that they need to rely on too much. And so they help to learn basically to live in a very different manner. Anyway,
cool.
just started reading that. It's quite interesting. It's brought up quite a lot of other themes that have been pretty aware and emblematic in other things I'm reading.
What was the name again?
Of the author? It was John Scalzi. The name of it was The Last Colony. He has, I think, 6 books.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 I think I've definitely heard of the author.
Mm-hmm. It's very much in an Ender's Game sort of fashion as well. He is very, very, very good just science fiction paperback. That's all. Especially Old Man's War, the first one, gripped me. So.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So this has been Book Corner.
Yeah.
Was this good for you?
Was good for me. Yeah. I think. I mean, the thing is, I don't know if we can keep it every week because I don't read a book. I don't have time to finish a book every week.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll change it.
We can just eventually transition to just talking about books I have read, and in that case, we will have enough content for the next 400 episodes. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
Because I've read a ton of books, and I've read every book ever.
Wow, thank you for using your normal voice, though, Philip. I forgot how cool you were. Yeah,
I had to make it certain that people know I'm being sarcastic.
Because sometimes it's a little too. We're not sure exactly.
Yeah,
if it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, same. That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you, dear listener, for listening and following along with us. If you have any big ideas, give us a shout out at our insert Gmail address right here.
Yeah, and our insert Twitter account because I'm never doing that. I'm never doing that.
We still refuse to edit at the moment. So if you're coming back here from a backlog of 50 episodes, coming back to see the very beginning, and you're just
honestly,
in these treacherous waters,
I think these episodes, because I have future sight, so I'm just going to tell you right away that I think these episodes are a little more endearing than the edited ones. I feel like the edited ones are a little too manufactured. They're a little too
This is our original good stuff.
Because I really think our editor, Frank, does a really great job, but I really just don't think that he does a really great job. I don't mean to disparage him, but I just think that edited episodes are just very manufactured. They feel a little stale. We have a jingle, you know.
Yeah. Honestly, we have 3 ad rolls now.
Yeah, and we've got 3 other co-hosts too, and it's just
too many. I don't know.
It's just all those NordVPN ad rolls just kind of like it just feels like
they're a good VPN.
Yeah, it just feels like a common podcast now, and it doesn't feel like as unique and big boy as it was. Now it's like big boy as in like big business, you know. And that's
that's sort of against our brand. We have a desperate, edgy need to sort of remain as non-mainstream as possible in that fashion. And so anything we could do to sort of mess with the medium or format or make this more unlistenable.
For example, one of the ways you know that the new podcasts suck compared to the old ones is that Philip you don't hear the sounds of the pistachio shells hitting the other ones.
Right, and that just gets me involved sort of in the experience.
Yeah, like that it's real.
I like that.
Because he's really eating pistachios. It's that ASMR.
I love that. Hell yeah.
You know? Here, let me just give you one.
I'm really feeling it.
I'll do to end it whenever you say what you want to say. To end it, tell me when, and I'll crack a shell. That'll be like we'll end.
All right, boom. All right, I'm Joseph. He's Philip.
I'm Philip.
The Big
Boys, Big Ideas, episode 1. That's a wrap.
You gonna eat it or?
Oh yeah.
God no, no! Damn it! We can't edit that. Okay, close. End it.